Hi everyone, this is your favorite friend Jay or Jaylan Salah, as you formerly know her, film critic at Geek Vibes Nation and In Session Film. Today I have the pleasure of interviewing director Thordur Palsson to talk about The Damned, a tense psychological thriller starring Odessa Young and Joe Cole, where fear stems from lack of humanity, empathy, isolation, claustrophobia, a lot of themes, but also nature itself. Thordur, I'm just so happy to talk to you today.
Hi, so nice to meet you.
I want to know what drew you to this particular idea, to this particular topic to create a film.
Oof, it's been so many years now. Originally, this kind of idea came about like 8 years ago. So it's taking its time to kind of get it right. Where I was living in a small fishing village, not as small as the fishing outpost in the film, but quite small. Actually, it's the town where we shot the film. Um, so I was living there, and I got snowed in for the winter and I was working on a story, and then this story slowly came about when I had met some fishermen there. I heard some stories, and when you start writing, things just come to you. And the story of the Draugur has always been an Icelandic folklore, and then you have these old Icelandic stories of poor fishermen in moving the light where the lighthouse is and putting it somewhere else and making ships hit the rocks so they can pillage what they can. And then as you're kind of writing and developing, as I was, this story, this interesting moral question came. What would you do if you were put in a position? So the setup of the story is that you have these fishermen that are living in this remote fishing outpost, and they're snowed in for the winter. They barely have enough food for themselves. And then one day they say a ship has sunk off their shores, and they all go down to save them. But then they have to actually ask the question: if we save these people and bring them back, we barely have enough food for ourselves. We will all starve and die. So that's the moral question of the story. Would you go save poor drowning foreigners in the ocean that you don't know, you have no connection to, or do you take care of your own? And that is what the film is.
Definitely. I want to ask you also, because I feel like your Icelandic background helped you creating a theme of man versus nature, and how sometimes nature can envelop you in cruelty that makes decisions difficult for you. So I want to know how that influenced you to bring us this feeling. Nature is just so tough in this film.
Oof, I mean, Iceland and nature, it goes hand in hand. And I barely understand how the early settlers, how they were able to survive. It was so rough. Nothing grew here. I mean, early on, they didn't even think that you could actually catch the fish in the ocean and eat the fish. They were actually the main thing back in the day was to be a farmer. Fishing actually came a little bit later. So it's always been really rough. Iceland was like almost like a third world country back in the day. It only changed in the Second World War when the British and the Americans came. So Iceland has gone through huge changes, but you have to respect nature. You have to respect the land. And I think that's where a lot of the folklore and a lot of the people trying to have answers to these dark questions of why these bad things happen to you.
Okay. There is a beautiful opening shot of Odessa being very tiny, and then you have snow surrounding her and she's walking. I love this shot so much. There are many beautiful shots in the movie, but I want to know, how did you establish an opening shot that kind of culminates the theme of the film in just one shot?
Well, it's interesting, with my cinematographer Eli Aronsson, we were always talking about the opening, what is going to help tell the story in the most kind of succinct way, and to see Eva so small in this big, vast landscape, but also not to show her face straight away and keep her face hidden for the audience so as you don't have access to her fully, which will come back later on in the ending of the film. Not to say it too much there. So you're trying to find these visual, cues or visual kind of things to hang the story on. So yeah, I would just have to say that's me and Eli talking it through, and then finally when we figured that out, that was late. That wasn't always the opening shot. We found that shot further into the shoot.
And also, I love the juxtaposition between shots where things are happening and things are happening, and it's a close up on her face, as if you want us to see the world through her eyes. So I don't know, how did you feel creating her, creating Eva, and also working with Odessa Young, who played it brilliantly, so that you can capture the feelings and the fear and the interactions on her face for us to engage with her?
Well, first of all, how lucky was I to work with Odessa Young? I mean, what a fantastic actress,
Brilliant.
great collaborator. She helped us a lot, also honing in on the character in the scripting stage. But to answer your question about why do we stick so closely to her eyes and her face, the whole film is shot through her perspective. We never see the world through any other character's eyes. It's always her. How is Eva feeling? How is she perceiving a moment? And so the camera is always stuck to where she is actually located almost. So that was always the main thing. And for me, for a film to be psychological, it has to be connected to a point of view, and her point of view is very specific to, well, because she was the one that made the big decision in the early on in the film. I don't know. Well, people can see the trailer. She's the one that has to make the big choice not to save the people. And also, when you're working with someone like Odessa, you just wanna stick to her face the whole time because there's so much going on.
That's so true. Okay, so the Draugur, am I saying the name correctly? Is it a manifestation? Please tell me how to pronounce it. Is it
Well, it's
Draugur?
Draugur, but it's very difficult to say Draugur.
Druge. Okay, so the Druge, is it a manifestation of things like our fear, our paranoia? What is it about? What did you want to express through this particular folk tale?
Well, the film is all about guilt in a way. It's about our decisions. It's about how you work through your decisions. Do you take responsibility? Do you not take responsibility? And the manifestation, or can you almost call a curse on yourself by your actions? And the Draugur, like the old stories of a Draugur, it was Draugur translated today is a ghost, but not in Icelandic. But it's not the one that can go through walls and say ooh. It's actually much closer to a zombie. It's like a rotting corpse that is coming back to seek revenge on the person that wronged them so greatly. So, I mean, for me, that's like the scariest thing I can think of. If I hear the front door at the middle of the night, I'm thinking, what did I do wrong? Who did I wrong? So I don't know.
I totally agree. And thankfully, the Druge is not coming after me. I totally agree. So I love that.
Well, I mean, don't wrong anyone. Don't wrong.
Okay, don't curse me. All right, all right. I'll see what I did last year. Okay. I love that
Yes.
psychological horror is a great vehicle for expressing some of our thoughts. And I love that it was portrayed here perfectly. So, why do you
Mm,
think currently I feel, because there is a resurgence in psychological horror, and I feel there are a lot of great works. So, whenever you have a film, there are other films. So, it's like a movement of psychological horror. How did you
mm,
feel it was a great vehicle for your ideas, for what you wanted to express? Because horror is great in
mm.
symbolism specifically.
Well, I mean, the story developed a lot. I was working with a fantastic screenwriter named Jamie Hannigan, and it was always about, it was always character based. And for me, that's the great thing about psychological horror is that it has to be character based, because for me to be psychological, it has to be connected to a character. Uh, and and also to kind of answer your question about why is there a resurgence, and I just think that horror, that genre, is so interesting in trying to look at kind of things that affect you in life or things you want to talk about. And I think that you can actually talk about quite heavy kind of stories from your own life, or from society, or what's happening in society, things you think are not right that's happening in the world. You can kind of bring them in through the back door through horror, and talk about them without actually bashing the audience over the head with a message. No one likes to watch a film that has a message, but possibly a film that has something to say through the back door, I say. That's, I think, why a lot of filmmakers are using that genre so well today.
I love that you mentioned also that it's about will you save your own, will you save foreign people to you? Do you think it's
Yeah.
kind of a commentary on how the world is going today? I'm not talking, like politically. I'm talking even socially, even about the world itself and how, in times of pandemics or something like that, you might think of these heavy morality questions, but through a horror frame. Do you think it comments through putting the audience in questioning mode on the world today through your film?
Well, I mean, like today, I mean, the fear of the other,
Hmm.
like,
Yes.
those people, and us, then it becomes us against them. We don't know anything about those people. And I think the dehumanization of the other, and I think those kinds of talking points in genre horror, it's a great avenue to, like you said, get people talking. And for me, it's very important that it's not the main thing you're bashing the audience in the face with to talk about, but it's part of the world. It's what the characters are going through versus, like I said, some kind of message. It's very integral to the story, so I feel it's worth putting in there.
As okay, so usually there is a difficult scene that none of us expect as audience members that it's difficult. So I want to know your most difficult scene shooting, which to the average eye would appear like, okay, probably people talking, a conversation around the table. I want to know that.
So, I mean, there's obvious ones, but the ones that maybe wasn't obvious. So, there's a scene after the food goes missing, and she walks out, and the men are arguing, and she's trying to work it all out. She walks past the men, so I decided on the day, it wasn't even decided beforehand, that I want to stick with Eva the whole time. I don't want to follow those men arguing and those men arguing and that the way it was written. I just want to feel how Eva is taking all of this in and how she's trying to find solutions and figuring out what is going on and where is the food, and then ultimately where it has one of the characters gone. Um, and so that became, as one would call, a oneer. It's one continuous shot without any edits, and I had to go so many takes. I mean, I was like in take 21,
Wow.
and I could bet the actors are like, this guy's lost it. What is he doing? Because, like, again, and it's like it's a dance. So, like, the camera has to move here, the actors got to move there. We have to have the camera on his face when he says a line, and it's a dance of figuring out that, and also making sure that the actors are performing the way that the scene needs. So yeah, that one was an interesting dance of actors and camera. We got it, and I'm very proud of that shot. But it was never supposed to be showy. It was never supposed to be like a Spielbergian kind of very flashy wonder. It was supposed to be us just being kind of glued to her and how she's perceiving this conflict that's happening within the group. Yeah.
Thordur, it was amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for giving me your time. This was a great conversation. The Damned is really, really thought-provoking psychological thriller, also very enjoyable. So thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. It was really nice.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.